It's a referendum special. It's Mike Graham and Mike Parry. We've been here since 1 o'clock. It's been quite a remarkable night, quite an historic night. We're now starting to sort of take in what has happened. It's basically that the UK has voted to leave the European Union. In Brussels, of course, there will be talk about this for many, many months to come. It's going to take a couple of years for the whole thing to sort of fall into place. But let's go over to Brussels right now, Mr. Parry, because we've got a correspondent there by the name of Ricky Albrechtsen. He's going to tell us what the immediate reaction is. Ricky, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Is this as much of a shock to you as it is to us, I suppose I should say?
Absolutely. This is a real shock. Brussels is waking up to a completely new reality.
And what does that mean for Angela Merkel? What does it mean for the guys running the European Union, the people who some of the voters over here have referred to as the unelected officials? I mean, this is kind of a seismic shock, I think, for Britain, but more so really for who's left in the European Union.
Well, we'll have to see that because, I mean, there are 27 other countries in the European Union, so it's not like we're going to close up shop just because you want to leave us. But of course, there's nothing that a political system likes less than uncertainty. And what is very clear is that nobody knows exactly what it is that Britain wants to happen practically right now because we have a completely insecure political situation. We don't know whether your prime minister will be the prime minister at the end of the day. We don't know what they are going to tell the European Union that they want. And all we can do now is to say, we're really sorry that you want to leave, but we have to respect the choice of the British people.
Yeah, I wonder if it'll be that civilised, Ricky, because I wonder whether there'll be recriminations within Europe. For instance, we all regard Angela Merkel as the most powerful politician in Europe. Could she be accused of not doing enough to help David Cameron, our Prime Minister, to come back to this country and say, we've struck a deal, we've sorted out some of the problems that concern the British people?
Well, I mean, I don't think you can blame anybody but yourself for the results that you have gotten to in Britain. This is a purely British negotiation, and the fact that you want to change the deal of the club that you're a member of, the European Union, is of course something that every member can work to try and achieve, but it has to be something that everybody else can also agree to. So you can't come to Brussels and then dictate your terms.
Well, I know, but there is negotiation. I mean, it's very interesting, actually, Ricky, because you just said to me then, Britain can't blame anybody but yourselves. But you don't quite understand. This is a referendum, and England, UK, United Kingdom, Great Britain has voted to get out. We're not blaming ourselves.
Exactly.
We're saying we've got what we want.
Yeah, and what the response will be from European leaders will be, we respect that.
Yes.
But I guess the question really, Ricky, is not so much, whether people in Europe will say, well, you know what, good riddance, they were always quite a bad member of the European Union anyway. They never really wanted to go along with what we wanted. They always wanted to try and stick their nose in and get something different from everybody else. And I think that is a relevant point to make. But also, will it in the end damage the credibility, if you like, of the European Union? Because Britain, after all, has a pretty strong
fifth biggest economy in the world.
I think 6 now, but I mean, still a very big sort of player in the world stage. What's it going to mean for also some of the other countries who might look at this and go, maybe we want to do the same thing?
Oh, but like my country, for example, Denmark is one of those countries that have a little bit of the same attitude towards the EU that Britain has. And of course, and that goes for most countries anyway. That everybody has a dose of healthy skepticism when it comes to what comes out of Brussels. That's for sure. And so, but I don't know exactly. So, sorry, can you repeat your question?
My question really was, will this have a possible kind of domino effect, a knock-on effect to countries like Denmark, perhaps parts of Italy, parts of Spain, countries that have asked the question about whether the European Union is being run properly, whether, the refugee crisis has caused problems across the continent, and also whether things like the Greek collapse and the subsidies of countries which are not doing so well economically, whether this will this will encourage other members of the EU to ask questions about possibly having a referendum in a similar way?
Oh, it absolutely can, and we already see it in several countries. We see it in my country, Denmark, where the Danish People's Party, which is a National Conservative Party, is calling for a referendum. But what they want is a referendum on whatever deal the UK ends up getting with the EU. So that's a little bit, further down the road. But you have Front National, of course, in France, saying that if they gain the presidency next year, then they will call a Brexit referendum within the first six months of their mandate. And you can see that this is something that a lot of different parties and a lot of different parts of Europe will pick up on.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating time, isn't
Certainly
it?
is.
Ricky, thank you so much. Ricky Albrechtsson there, who's a correspondent for Altinget over in Denmark.
In Denmark. And is Ricky Danish, as far as we know?
I would imagine so.
Because she said, you've only got yourself to blame to me, and I had to pick her up on it. Because the point is, what do you mean we've only got ourselves to blame?
Well, I can see why she said that. Yeah. Because actually, what you were asking her was whether or not the European Union and its leaders had done enough to sort of convince people in Britain. I think the problem has been that basically so many people on the ground, if you like, in this country have become disenchanted with politics in general, disenchanted with the leaders of this country and indeed the leaders of Europe.
Absolutely.
I mean, when, like I said, when the head of the European Union comes out and says, if you vote Brexit tomorrow, there's no coming back.
That's right.
A lot of people probably went, if you want to threaten us like that, that's exactly why we want to get out, which is what Boris Johnson said.
That's right. Got a statement here, not a statement, I've got a piece that George Osborne wrote for a Sunday newspaper just, how many days ago was that? 4 days ago.
4 days ago, yeah.
He said, this is my stark warning, right?
Yeah.
Jobs, you'll lose 440,000 jobs will be lost if we vote to
And as
leave.
I said, one of them will be his.
One of them will be his.
Yeah.
GDP will be 5% lower. Well, GDP is appallingly low already, isn't it?
Yeah.
We can't get a growth factor into the economy. It hovers around sort of 1.5%, 2%,
something like
1.25% to
and it may well
2%.
be with the fall in the pound over the last few hours. That unless that bounces back relatively soon, that could have a bad effect.
Yeah, okay. He says there'll be a black hole of up to 40 billion lost to public finances. I don't quite understand why that is, actually, because I can't see any immediate change in the amount of money the government takes in to fill any black holes, and he says inflation will go 1% higher.
Yeah.
And again, I can't see that. Inflation is usually based on demand, and I think a couple of his statements here contradict each other.
I think the bottom line
if demand falls, inflation won't go up.
I think the bottom line about George Osborne and many of the things that were said before this whole campaign got underway was nobody really knew what would happen. Nobody really knows now how it's all going to work. Nobody really knows what Cameron's going to say. We expect that he will, as John Rentoul said, that he will remain in power at least until maybe, as you suggested, the party conference season. But we could end up before the end of this year with a new Prime Minister. We could end up with some kind of roadmap as to where we actually go from here, how much we're going to have to spend, how we're going to extricate ourselves, if you like, with so much red tape. That so many regulations. I mean, what happens to the European Court of Human Rights, for example? That presumably cut the ties with them. All sort of freedom of movement. I mean, the football business, as I said, is going to be affected. Everything's going to be affected.
I mean, that's funny you just mentioned that. That's one factor which really could have influenced people. I think there was, if it wasn't a promise, then certainly it was a big hint that Mr. Cameron would get rid of the Bill of Human Rights, imposed upon the European Court of Human Rights, and issue a United Kingdom Bill of Rights instead.
Right.
And that was something that people took him at his word at, and are very disappointed he didn't do. Because we're fed up that people who commit crimes in this country can't even be deported because their human rights have been infringed if they are. So people wanted rid of that. One other big factor, Mike, which I've come across, the Leave It campaign. Those who were confident that they won said that in the aftermath of a victory of leaving, they would go to the Chancellor today in the aftermath of that and say, look, because they knew the pound was going to sink and all that kind of stuff, they would urge the Chancellor to immediately slash corporation tax on businesses in this country to 10%. That's half of what it is now.
Right.
And if doing that, they said that would then open Britain to business for the rest of the world, free of the constraints of European regulation. So come here to Britain, hoping to attract a lot of European businesses into this country with a very, very low corporation tax.
Well, I mean, this may well be the case. I mean, I'm looking at a quote from J.K. Rowling there. Scotland will now seek independence. Cameron's legacy will be to have broken up 2 states, effectively, because, as we said, we've now got Sinn Féin calling for United Ireland. On the back of this, we're now having Scotland calling for probably a second referendum and independence for their country. I mean, it's just astonishing what Cameron has done. He has made a complete rick of this entire situation.
That's what politicians do.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a bigger change in the future of this country than has happened in my lifetime. Far bigger than going into the European Union. I agree. Coming out of it is a much bigger deal.
Well, the thing is, Mike, going into it was a slow process which took 35 years, right? Coming out of it is a process which has taken 5 hours.
Yeah. I know.
So it's bound to be a bigger shock.
Very well put. Very well put. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you for this long.
And yourself.
You made a lot more sense than you normally do, I have to say.
That's nice, isn't it?
And
you still managed to gerrymander the quiz.
The quiz was as you would expect. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. 2 out of 10, I'm afraid, for Mr. Parry. If you've just woken up, Britain has voted to leave the European Union. It's going to take a little while. It's going to take maybe 2 years. But as I mentioned earlier, it's a kind of conscious uncoupling scenario, as Gwyneth Paltrow would call it. What it means for our future, I have no idea. What it means for going on holiday to the European Union, I suspect it won't make too much difference in the short term. What it means for the pound, which is at a 35-year low, we don't know. What it means for David Cameron, we're not sure.
No.
What it means for Angela Merkel, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, there's an awful lot of questions. So we should have another 5 hours for this.
So there's one thing I do know.
Yeah.
We should head off now for a bladderation breakfast.
We should, but sadly I won't be able to join you because I've got to go now and get to myself to the school run, which is a few miles away, and I have to get myself get my skates on, basically.
Opting out of a breakfast union with me.
I am, I can't. I'm just going to leave. It's as simple as that. I've had enough. I'm not remaining. This has been talkSPORT. It's been a referendum special. We've enjoyed it. It's been absolutely and utterly historic in terms of what's happened. Coming up is the Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast. Danny Kelly in the chair. This has been talkSPORT.